Hello and welcome back to Kimchi Rednecks. So for those of you who've been following the channel, you may remember that we bought this awesome pizza oven and we mentioned making pizza.
It's sitting over there just waiting.
Literally, Chuck, you're showing them all of the crap that's sitting on top of it.
That's what's happened to it. It's just sitting there with junk on it.
We've used it a few times, but we've not actually made homemade pizza for it yet. And it's mostly because it's hot, it's summer. Therefore, you don't really want to heat your kitchen up too much because that's miserable. However, today I'm going to make the dough and we're going to make the sauce so that we can make pizza tomorrow because my dough needs a night in the fridge to get all of its goodness in there. So,
and anybody who's ever made spaghetti or pizza or marinara sauce knows that it's better after it's sit for a bit.
Yeah, it'll be a much better sauce tomorrow after it's sat for at least a night. So we're gonna get started. This is a recipe that I've kind of developed over time and found that works for me. You can use a KitchenAid with your bread hook on, or if you have a food processor, I've been told that you can use a food processor to get your dough where you want it as well. I don't have a food processor, so I'm gonna use my KitchenAid because I love my KitchenAid. So we're gonna start by putting in our bread flour. For this, we're gonna use about 4.5 cups. That was 2 I measured out, but I'm gonna measure out the rest of it now. And then here's my 1/2 cup. All right, so then we've also got a tablespoon of kosher salt. And we're also going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. And then the yeast is going to be about 2 teaspoons. So I use the Fleischmann's Pizza Crust yeast. So I'm just going to kind of crack this open. That's literally all that's in this packet, is 2 teaspoons. There's that. We're gonna actually give this a little bit of a mix just to kind of allow it to kind of mix my ingredients together.
Dry mix?
Dry mix, yep. And then the next stuff we're gonna be adding is 3 tablespoons of olive oil and 15 ounces of lukewarm water. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of my olive oil while it's mixing. And if you can hear that in the background, that is actually thunder. We're getting a nice thunderstorm right now as the dogs behind me are shaking and thrilled with this. Because, you know, I decide to video something, we have to get a thunderstorm. So I use extra virgin olive oil. I don't know if it makes a difference, but that's just what I use. And then I always pour my water in kind of slowly, mostly because I'm trying to allow that mixer to start incorporating everything. You probably can't hear it, but the mixer is starting to slow down because it's starting to get more of the water mixed in, so it's starting to goo up a little bit. So just so you didn't have to sit there and wait while this thing mixed, it's just a couple minutes really. We turned the camera off, but now I am going to get my dough out. But before I do that, I'm going to want to put on my clean counter some flour, just so the dough has some traction when I put it down here. All right. So the game plan at this point is just literally to knead it once or twice by hand until a smooth ball is formed. So trying to remember now how Chuck's mother taught me to knead because I was never very good at this, but I believe you're just going to kind of roll it in, out. I really sucked at making biscuits as a child, just so y'all know that, because I never really mastered the whole kneading process. And there's a funny story about my dad getting my sister and I to make biscuits once, and we made such a huge mess in the kitchen, and he came in looking for his biscuits, and guys, we sadly didn't make biscuits, we just made a mess in the kitchen. It's terrible, isn't it? And he sent us to clean up, and literally in the amount of time that it took us to get all of the flour off of ourselves, change into clean clothes, he had biscuits in the oven about ready to come out. He was a master at this. So now we have a pizza dough. So the game plan at this point is going to be to separate this into 3 even parts, because this should make about 3 12-inch pizza crusts. So 3 even parts, and then I actually put a little bit of oil on them so that as they're rising in the bags, it actually doesn't stick to the inside of the bag so much. So once I've separated them into 3 balls, then I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on my hands, rub it over my pizza crust, and then it's going to go in the fridge, and it's going to basically do a cold rise overnight. So the game plan is to try and keep a uniform size ball. And I'm probably going to end up making more than 3 balls, because we usually end up making thinner crust for the most part.
All right, everybody. So part 2 of this recipe is I am going to, on the fly, try to recreate my homemade spaghetti sauce or pizza sauce or marinara sauce or whatever sauce you want to call it. It's all pretty much the same thing.
The challenge for him, this is like a chop challenge though, is because he's having to do this out of the items that we have in our
I'm doing
pantry.
this out of the cupboards, yeah.
Yeah, so trying to get rid of some stuff in the pantry, so he's graciously going to assist me in that matter.
So generally, when I try to make this, I accidentally figured out how to make pizza sauce 10, 12 years ago. Basically, it was one of those, oh, hey, cook this for us. And I'm like, okay. And I had to deconstruct pizza sauce in my brain and figure it out. So that recipe actually calls for me to have like fresh garlic that I have to chop up and do, and fresh tomatoes that I have to, you know, peel and stew and do all that.
Fresh basil.
It's a lot of work, but it's a really good sauce. However,
he has cans.
I have cans. So, in fact, these cans are organic.
Some of them.
For those of you that don't know, that just means it was grown in crap.
All right, crap.
Instead of chemicals.
All right, you got to start with your...
So, first things first.
Turn your eye on.
Yep, turn the eye on. There we go. Put it at about a medium high at the moment. There is not an exact measurement for this. I'm going off the cuff, as it were. I'm going to say probably about 4 tablespoons, 5 maybe.
Maybe 2.
2?
Let's say 2.
I'm going to say about 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. For garlic, I've got Korean
minced garlic.
Yeah, Pulmone brand, who's not sponsoring me.
Dude, we love this stuff.
Yeah, this really does make life a whole lot easier.
This is my favorite. I used to buy the one that was in the oil that you can get in the States, but this is my favorite.
I'm going to start with that. I'm about just a teaspoon or a tablespoon.
That'd probably be more of a tablespoon, but it's a little bit bigger than a tablespoon.
It's about 2 tablespoons of garlic. If I need more, I'll add it later. So, fennel. We're flavoring oil in case anybody cares.
I also use fennel whenever we make like Italian sausage. If I'm frying that up, I'll actually add the fennel too, just because fennel is just fabulous.
I'm not even sure what that would be as a measurement. Maybe a teaspoon?
Maybe.
The crushed rosemary is not even open. How dare we? No, wait a minute. What the? Okay, that works.
So that means whoever opened the rosemary would probably be you. Take that out.
I'm going to say that was probably about a half teaspoon. And then we've got some sort of pizza seasoning that Melissa got from somewhere, which is all the stuff. Onion, bell peppers, more fennel, oregano, garlic, basil, parsley, thyme, marjoram. I like marjoram better.
Okay.
Celery and chili peppers.
That one hasn't been opened. I do know that.
Come on. All right, we'll do it the slow way. Basically, this part should be the fragrant part. Keep stirring because you don't want to burn the garlic. You just want to brown it. That should be good. So now that the garlic is starting to brown and I can smell that fennel, we've got basically a whole onion and a whole bell pepper.
And we're going to saute the hell out of that.
That we are going to, I don't know if you call it a saute or a sweat. I think we're going to sweat it.
We're going to cook it.
We're going to cook it down.
And because we're dealing with a lot of canned items, he's probably going to have to adjust some of the...
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tasting in this recipe. Yeah. All right, so we're going to open some cans. We're going to cook this down. We'll be right back. All right, so here's a view from another camera because my nice new shiny camera, expensive one over there, we don't have a lens that focuses real close, so yet. So here is a view inside the pot.
So we did add how much salt and pepper?
I'd say probably maybe half a teaspoon to 3/4 of salt and just pepper to taste.
So those of you who are going, oh my God, why is there so much onion?
This is going to cook down.
It's cooking down, but also by the time that we go to make the sauce, we will also be...
There's a lot of cans of tomato here.
We will also be blending it up so that it's not like in full form.
Yeah, this is definitely going to have a lot of tomato cooked into it, and then it's going to have to be frappéd.
Yeah.
Is this thing equipped with smell-o-vision?
Probably not, but it should be.
All right, so as we were just showing you, probably from the pocket camera, we've been cooking the onions and the bell peppers down a bit. The garlic is smelling strong.
It smells fabulous in here.
Yes. So we are going to add canned tomatoes, juice and all.
So 2 28-ounce diced cans.
Basically just make it work. You could use 32-ounce cans if that's what's available.
Then we also have
Hold on a second, let me stir this in.
2 cans of stewed tomatoes with onions, celery, and green peppers that are going to get added in.
I think we got a bit of tomato with a bit of corner or rind or something on
Okay.
it. Obviously, if the tomato doesn't look good, don't cook it. Take it out. There's
right.
more tomatoes.
So here's 1 stewed.
Now, personally, I actually like to make this sauce with stewed tomatoes if I'm doing it, because you can crush them down and they, honestly, I think retain the flavor a little bit more than the diced ones.
But sometimes we have to go with what we have. And then we have 1 can of diced with basil, garlic, and oregano.
Yeah, because that's free extra seasoning.
All right, so that is the cans of actual tomato that we're working with. We also have a couple cans of sauce, a couple cans of paste, but we're also adding julienne cut sun-dried tomatoes.
Why sun-dried tomatoes? Because sun-dried tomatoes have a good strong tomato flavor. So this will actually absorb some of the juice.
2 of those.
This is going to absorb actually probably a fair bit of the juice that's in here. So you can feel free to either rehydrate as necessary with water, or if you have like a nice red wine or something, you could put a...
Oh, you need wine for this.
Oh yeah. You could put anywhere from, I generally say start with a half cup, but depending on how strong the flavor on your wine is to how strong your tomato is, figure it out, balance it.
A rose.
A rose will work if you don't have anything else.
I probably have red.
Oh yeah, we got one of those little ones. That will work better for a tomato sauce than a rose.
Okay, here you go.
Got a measuring thingy?
How much what measuring thingy do you want?
Cups.
You want cups? Like, neither of us are big wine drinkers, so when I can find these little teeny bottles, I like to grab them.
All right, we'll start with half a cup. And I'll set that to the side. If we need more later, we can add more. If not, we can either drink it or pour it out. I know there's some Corona house moms out there at the moment going, no, don't pour out the wine. But we really don't drink it.
We cook with our wine, but we could save that for something else we're cooking as well.
So if you happen to be in the States, in an area where they actually have it, there is a vineyard, or is it a vineyard or a brand or whatever they call it? A vineyard?
It's called Duplin.
Yeah, in North Carolina, it's called Duplin or Duplain. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. They make a wine with muscadines and schnapperlogs. I cannot remember which one is the red and which one is the white between those two.
But we like both.
Both of them are good. They are sweeter than a normal wine because they're wild grapes or whatever you call them. The red and even the what do you call the mix? The blush is great for making tomato sauce, chili. It adds a little bit of sweet in with the wine flavor.
Roast.
Stewing a roast, yes.
Beef stew.
The blush or the rose is really good for making a beef stew.
The white is really good for making chicken.
So I will give them a shout out. I wish we could get that here, but they don't sell it overseas. Or at least they don't sell it overseas here. So we make do with what we can find. So
this is going to cook for a little while.
This is going to take a minute.
Are you wanting to add in any of your sauce or paste at this point, or?
Let's go ahead and add in the sauce. We can keep the paste for later if we need to thicken it up some.
Okay, so we've got 2 little cans of sauce.
I think these are 8-ounce cans. Be sure not to cut yourself on the cans.
These are 8-ounce cans.
Oh, those freshly cut onions are still getting to me.
It's funny seeing as you didn't even cut them.
I know.
You weren't even here when I cut them.
I had to go get dinner. All right, so that is looking thick. We may come back later and add a little more water, but we are going to put a top on this, let it come to a, let it start to bubble, and then turn it down to a medium lowish, and then basically cook the crap out of it. Taste as necessary, and then when you're ready to container it, you blend it down in a blender or a food processor, or if you've got one of those little magic mulch making sticks that you put in a pot.
Magic mulch making sticks.
Yeah, the food mulcher.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever you call those things.
Yeah, we have one, right?
I don't know.
You should know.
She acts like I remember this stuff.
You've used it more than I have.
Have I?
Yeah, you have.
Anyway, so we're going to cook this down a bit through the magic of editing. We'll be right back. Well, Melissa has had a brainwave. Since we're cooking this slow and it's going to go overnight anyway, we broke out the crock pot. So we've put about a little more than half of what was in this pot in the crock pot, and it's going to cook on the 10-hour setting. We're just going to let it go and then come back in the morning. We're going to take what's left in this pot, stick it on the stove, and cook it for, I'm going to guess, probably about an hour and a half.
So far, we have not added our oregano, parsley, or basil.
Right.
Do you want to add some of that later?
Yeah, we're going to let it cook a bit first,
okay.
And then we'll taste it, and then we'll add what's needed. So this is in here cooking and simmering. We're going to cook this on the stove a little bit. I'll probably just taste this one since it's all came out of the same pot, and whatever I add to this one, I'll also add to that one. So we've been cooking for, what, probably about an hour now?
Probably.
And we're adding some more seasoning. I tasted it. It's not bad. It's a little sharp, so we're trying to balance it out. So I'm adding the same stuff to each pot here.
Wait, do I see gochugaru out over there?
Yes.
Did you freaking put gochugaru in my spaghetti sauce? I mean, my marinara?
Yeah. I've always put spicy in it. Just a little bit.
If I can't eat this, I'm going to hurt you.
We're adding about another full tablespoon of garlic.
So here we've got what? Okay, so we got some gochugaru,
There's very little. There's maybe...
oh no, that pile looks really red.
Yes, but look at the amount of sauce that it's seasoning. There's maybe half a teaspoon between the two pots.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Garlic, oregano, parsley.
Yeah, there's about probably a tablespoon total of oregano, parsley.
Is that sugar?
There's a teaspoon of sugar.
Okay.
To take the
acid level down a little bit.
Down a little bit. Where's my, that's my stirring spoon. Added some basil in.
So I mean, obviously the one that's in the slow cooker is going to cook a little bit slower, but it'll cook all night while we're sleeping, so no biggie on that, which will build the flavor quite a bit better. The other one we're cooking a little bit faster, but the two of them mixed together, it's going to be a perfect mix.
It's getting a little bit thick, so we're going to add some hot water.
You want to add hot water or more wine? Remember, you got a little more wine left.
Let me fold this in. Oh, there was some juice sitting at the bottom. Okay,
yeah.
Not as thick as I was thinking it was. I don't think it needs any more wine.
Okay. Does it need water? You're good. You're a better taste at this than I am.
Just take a taste. There's a lot of stuff that just got mixed in, so it's got to meld a little bit, but that's a pretty good start. I'm going to add a little bit more water.
Well, since that one's going to cook all night, that's going to probably need a little bit more water.
True.
So, not a lot more water, just a little.
We've got to keep it hydrated.
Do we want to come look at this one?
Now, this one does need some extra water. It's on an active burner, so it's cooking down a little faster. That clump of garlic doesn't want to separate. There we go. That would be one hell of a bite.
Keep all the vampires away.
Alright, so here we are, next morning. We're using the food mulcher stick to grind the tomato down into more of a marinara and less of a spaghetti sauce. our sauce is set overnight. It's done pretty much all the blending it's really going to do in a short period of time. So now we are, well, one, we're warming it back up because we're going to use it to make, are we doing dinner or lunch? Dinner? Okay, so.
A meal?
A meal sometime today. So at this point, since we've already hit everything with the frappe stick and we're bringing it back up to warm. See, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I'm gonna see if I can zoom in on this in post. Now, it's down to tasting and seasoning to preference. And my thing at the moment is trying to figure out exactly what it needs. I'm pretty sure we need a bit of salt. This one's coarse sea salt. That's, what, maybe half a teaspoon? So I'm gonna start with that because you build up with salt. It's a lot harder to account for too much salt than to add a little more salt later on.
And my suggestion is basil.
Basil? So we'll do about the same. I learned the country method. I do stuff by palmfuls.
Which honestly sometimes is better when he's doing this, because otherwise it'd be like 75 bowls or spoons or.
So there's
other
about
things.
a half a palmful. That's probably about a teaspoon. No, half a teaspoon, 3/4. Somewhere in that range.
3/4 of a teaspoon, probably.
Okay.
At this point, you're just gonna mix that in and let it flavor.
Yeah, give it a minute or two. So what I'm trying to count for at the moment is it's still a little bit sharp, a little bit acidic. It's got a little bit of a metallic tang to it, but I think that might come from it just being canned tomatoes. That's why my original recipe for this uses fresh tomatoes, but that's a whole lot of work.
Also, it doesn't get rid of any of the cans that we needed to get rid of since we had extra cans.
There's that as well. And a little more salt. Now you have to alternate between not doing too much but not being too shy because this is a big pot of sauce. A little shake across the top, not going to do anything. So about another half teaspoon on there.
And with salt, if you add too much of it, it's hard to back it out of, especially a spaghetti sauce, because there aren't as many things you can put in to
At that point, the only
salt.
thing you can really do is add more tomato sauce and hope it thins it out.
Yeah, so you definitely
And that's going to throw off all your other seasoning.
You don't want to oversalt.
And it's always easy to add a little bit of table salt at the end if you really want that salt kick. Not bad.
I think it's got enough salt now.
Strangely, I think it needs a little bit more of this. It doesn't have that slight underkick that you liked. I made this once when we were in Arizona. Of course, I don't think I had this. I think I was just using regular crushed red pepper. And it had just enough of an underbite on it of spicy
All right, just
that...
be careful with your spice, sir. I don't want to die later.
It's only about a half teaspoon.
You know, interesting enough to point out, so at the beginning of COVID-19, this jar was probably right about here, and now look where we are.
It's all these Korean cooking videos. Strangely enough, almost every Korean recipe calls for
Strangely.
Korean spicy powder.
Well, actually, no, this just tells you that I use more spice than I used to, because I didn't used to use that much spice, so we clearly have been using more. I have built up a higher tolerance for the spice than I used to have. Not much, but a little.
Which means coming soon, that spicy ramen video.
I've been putting that one off for a while, guys.
Yeah, she's managed it all winter so far. I would have thought winter would be the perfect time to have spicy ramen.
Well, it's summer now. I'm not having it in the summer.
So she says.
I'm not having it in the summer.
We got our heat on medium-low. We're bringing it back up to a simmer. And at some point, we'll take it off and set it to the side and actually make pizza. All right, everybody, we're back. We're getting ready to make pizza. Hopefully, you can actually see where I'm working here. We got a little flour spread out. We got our new pizza oven over here warming up to just shy of nuclear. And the dough.
Dough number 1.
Right, so it's been a hot minute since I've actually made pizza, so I'm trying to remember exactly how this works.
All right, I'm gonna pull your pan over here. It is pre-greased.
All right, so if I remember correctly, first off, I need to punch this out.
All the frustrations of the week.
Yes.
As long as none of them are me, it's fine.
Ah, I always wind up with flour all over
He
me.
makes such a mess.
I'm a messy cook.
People are questioning why I keep you around for all this mess. Because he's a good cook.
All right, so now that that's relatively circular, there are, oh, that stretched a bit.
It's stretchy.
It is stretchy. You obviously want to try and get the dough relatively uniformly thin. and spread out, which that actually seems to have done fairly well.
It did fairly well. Actually, it looks like it's about the size of the pan.
Most of the time I wind up with a big oval or a square, and
You've gotten better, and tears in it. But
with tears in it.
this one looks pretty good.
All right, so move to the pan here.
And now you're just going to kind of stretch it on the pan.
Yeah, I got to kind of try and fit it to the pan.
And you don't want anything to be too crazy thick on the sides there.
You do kind of want to press your crust up a little bit because your crust, if nothing else, is a catch for the rest of your toppings so they don't go over the top. That actually was the smoothest pizza crust I've ever done.
This is the smoothest pizza crust he's ever done.
So, this is obviously going to be a New York Neapolitan style pizza.
All right, you're better at the spreading of this. Is that too much or just enough?
That should be about enough.
That's what I thought.
So here's our homemade sauce, which is actually a little thick. All right, let me get a little more. With it this thick, it's not going to spread as easy. Get it up near the crust so it doesn't get all lonely. If the top of our heads are cut off in the frame, I apologize.
Meh, they didn't need to see our heads. They only want to see our pizza. Let's be honest.
None of my lenses I have really have a short enough...
Yet, we're getting lenses.
We're going to have to research a new lens for short range. All right, so that should be good for the sauce.
Okay, so what do you want next? Cheese?
Yes, cheese. So,
Mozzarella.
I'm going to put, the way I do it, I'm going to put a relatively light layer of cheese down first.
And then I have pre-sauteed, or we have pre-sauteed bell pepper and onion and mushroom, just because I like the way that it's already sauteed a little bit, so it's a little mushy but not completely mushy. That's just my style on that. I don't like them when they're super, super crisp still. I don't know why. I just don't.
So when I'm making homemade pizza, I like to start putting my toppings on the crust side and then slowly work into the center so that I don't wind up with a whole bunch of toppings in the center. Otherwise, when you cut your slice and you pick it up, all your toppings fall off.
So I am adding a little bit of Italian sausage right now. This is a mix of sweet and hot Italian sausage. Is that enough or you want a little bit more?
That should be good. We're also adding the pepperoni, so.
Yeah. So
also remember, don't put too many toppings on the pizza or it's just gonna fall apart.
So we got cubed pepperoni, so.
Yes, cubed pepperonis. Because this ought to cook a little easier. And I like pepperoni, so.
Then the finishing is going to be, I like to brush olive oil on the outside of the crust because I think it helps to crisp that crust just a little bit more. I did also put Pam on the actual pan before we put the pizza down so it shouldn't stick.
And then I'm going to come back and put another light layer of cheese on top, which should hopefully, mildly effectively, glue all the ingredients to the pizza. That and I like cheese.
And then just for a finishing touch, I do just a little bit of a sprinkle of our pizza seasoning. All right, so are we ready?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So let's wash our hands.
Wash your hands.
All right, so here we go. This is our pan with our pizza. We're gonna come over. I'm gonna let Chuck do the honors of placing our lovely pizza. So I'm gonna pull this out and he's gonna insert it.
There we go.
And then are you gonna set the timer or?
I don't know exactly what the timer's supposed to be set for, but it's currently on 15 minutes. So I don't think it's supposed to take quite that long.
We'll find out. What you doing, Chuck?
Well, this one didn't come out quite as stretchy as the first one naturally, so I'm having to do that pizzeria thing.
Well, remember, I usually do it's supposed to be enough dough for 3, and I did it into 4. So this one will be a little bit thinner of a crust, which you occasionally prefer anyways. So, but now you get to see him do the pizza dough stuff, which he's actually not terribly bad at it.
Yes, I am.
You're not terrible. Trust me, if I was doing this, it'd be in the floor already.
Well, keeping it on my wrist in the air isn't a bad thing, but it's not coming out even. The crust is a lot thicker than the center.
That's okay. Put it on the pan and we'll stretch it out. We got this.
We have pulled the first one out, and look at that magnificence. That came out bloody marvelous looking. The crust is a little spongy. It could be a little more well done, but I didn't want to burn the damn thing, so. What do you think?
I think it looks good.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a minute when we pull the other one out so you can see the live unveil. All right, so we did notice on the first one, now that we've sliced it,
Probably could have cooked for a little bit longer for a little crisper crust, which is one of the things that you like. So this one would be a little bit softer. Actually, we could put this one back in for a little bit longer.
we could.
Might as well. If you want a crisper crust, then I say put it back in.
Put it back in and let it crisp up for a few minutes.
So the question is, do you know how long you left this in the first time?
So we are pulling out the pizza. Excuse the shaky hand, but this is
Heavy and hot?
heavy and hot. And this is aluminum isn't that stable. So if the big camera can pick it up, look at that.
The little camera's off now, so the big camera's going to have to pick it up.
Steamer.
That looks good.
All right, so we're gonna cut stuff up and we're gonna have dinner. All right, so we got the second one.
Oh yeah, that's a much better looking crust on the bottom
And
of
it
that.
is still hot.
No, that's a much better looking crust. Yeah, so we definitely got that one. So we think the sweet spot is about 12 to 14, depending upon how thick the crust ends up being.
And obviously the more toppings you cram on it, the soggier it's gonna be in the center because it just can't cook through.
Well, you know, that happens. But it looks pretty awesome, so.
It's time for Kimchi Redneck's Pizza Shop. It's a little soggy on the tip there. It's a bit thin.
Oh, Kisu likes.
Yeah. It doesn't have corn on it, so it's not a real Korean pizza. Corn on pizza is not necessarily bad, but occasionally you just want the
I
classics.
thought I was going to be mad at you because you put that gochujaro in the sauce, but it's not overpowering.
I told you, you like
works.
the one I made in Arizona.
It works.
Most people would not think of putting gochujaro in pizza sauce, but
All right, looks like you're...
let's steam it a bit. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I'll just let it finish off the minute or so it's got on the clock. All right, let's grab a slice.
We're not going to open a pizza shop either.
Cheese grease, those little cube pepperonis we bought for this, crispy on all edges. Just enough veg to keep your colon right.
You've got an angry dog down here. She's waiting for her pizza.
And we got a doggy.
She is severely dissatisfied.
She's very dissatisfied she does not have pizza.
And behind you is dissatisfied number 2.
Where's number 3? You're around here somewhere.
Thinking that I'm going to give her something.
Oh, there's number 3 over there?
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, so. Alright, so that's pizza night at the Redneck abode. So, we're going to eat. Y'all have fun, do the internet stuff. We'll see y'all around.